Welcome to our defense briefing program. Today we have some intriguing stories to cover. First up, security concerns have been raised regarding the Trump administration's use of the Signal app for military discussions, which included a journalist. While officials claim no classified information was leaked, the sensitive details shared could still pose risks to national security. Next, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has issued a stern warning to Venezuela regarding its territorial claims over Guyana. He emphasized that any aggressive actions would lead to serious consequences, highlighting U.S. military readiness to respond. This situation draws attention to the ongoing geopolitical tensions in the region. Lastly, in Gaza, residents have taken to the streets to demand an end to Hamas's 18-year rule amid ongoing airstrikes. This rare public challenge against the group's authority reflects a growing desire for change and peace among the people. Please stay tuned for more detailed coverage. Associated Press warned the Trump administration's use of the encrypted messaging app Signal to discuss sensitive military plans has ignited concerns about the national security, particularly when a journalist was included in the conversation. While officials assert that no classified information was leaked, the discussions contained details potentially valuable to adversaries like the Houthi rebels in Yemen. The classification of information is a nuanced process, with terms like confidential, secret, and top secret denoting varying levels of sensitivity. The Pentagon typically safeguards military operations, and even discussions deemed controlled unclassified information are not to be conducted on unsecured devices. The power to classify or declassify information lies with high-ranking officials, including the President and Defense Secretary, and any breach of protocol can have serious repercussions. NY Times Secretary of State Marco Rubio has warned Venezuela of consequences should it attempt to assert control over resource-rich territories belonging to Guyana, amidst escalating tensions over the Essequibo region. During a press conference in Georgetown, Rubio emphasized the U.S. commitment to defending Guyana's sovereignty against what he termed illegitimate territorial claims from Venezuela's narco-trafficking regime. While he refrained from detailing specific U.S. actions, his remarks hinted at potential military intervention, underscoring the strategic importance of the region, especially given its oil reserves. Guyana's President Irfan Ali expressed gratitude for U.S. support in safeguarding their territorial integrity, highlighting the significance of international partnerships in addressing regional threats. Deutsche Welle: a visit to Greenland by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has been met with skepticism and irritation from locals, who perceive it as a provocation, particularly given the backdrop of U.S. ambitions for the strategically important island. Originally planned as a public event, the U.S. delegation altered their itinerary to focus on military matters, which Danish officials welcomed. The U.S. has long eyed Greenland for its geostrategic significance and resource potential, including rare earth minerals and new shipping routes due to climate change. However, many Greenlanders oppose U.S. claims and express a desire for independence from Denmark, with a recent election reflecting a shift towards parties advocating for self-determination. The overwhelming majority of Greenlanders, as indicated by polls, are against the idea of U.S. annexation, viewing it as a disregard for their rights to self-governance. Australian Broadcasting Corporation reports that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has expressed frustration over the shifting terms of a minerals deal with the United States, which he perceives as a setback in the already strained relations between Kyiv and Washington. During a meeting in Paris, Zelensky emphasized the necessity for a steadfast American stance against Russia, especially as Ukraine continues to negotiate a ceasefire. The expected agreement would grant the U.S. a 50% stake in Ukraine's mineral wealth as compensation for military aid, but Zelensky highlighted that the conditions surrounding the negotiations have become increasingly unpredictable. As he seeks to strengthen Ukraine's position in ongoing talks with Russia, he remains hopeful for continued U.S. support, even as he acknowledges the complications that have arisen from recent diplomatic tensions. CBC details a bipartisan effort from U.S. lawmakers calling for an investigation into the use of the Signal app by Trump administration officials to discuss military strategies. Senators Roger Wicker and Jack Reed have formally requested an inquiry into whether sensitive information was improperly shared through unclassified channels. Despite the Justice Department's reluctance to publicly disclose any investigations, concerns are mounting regarding the mishandling of national defense information. Amidst this, Trump officials assert that the information was not classified, but the situation raises significant questions about accountability and the handling of sensitive military communications. The controversy has sparked a broader debate about the implications of using non-approved apps for discussing classified matters, with calls for accountability echoing from both sides of the political aisle. The New York Times highlights a rare wave of protests in Gaza, where residents are demanding an end to both the ongoing war with Israel and the 18-year rule of Hamas, triggered by a recent airstrike and an evacuation order. Hundreds have taken to the streets, expressing their grievances against Hamas's governance and the dire living conditions in the enclave. With the absence of Hamas's security forces, analysts suggest that the group is wary of confronting the demonstrators, fearing a backlash that could worsen public sentiment. The protests signify a significant shift in the Palestinian populace's willingness to challenge Hamas, as many feel they have nothing left to lose amid the devastation wrought by the conflict. The calls for peace and a cessation of violence reflect the growing frustration with the status quo and the desire for a better future. RFI reports that France and Britain are spearheading a mission to bolster Ukraine's defense amid ongoing tensions with Russia. French President Emmanuel Macron announced plans for a reassurance force composed of several European nations, highlighting that these troops will not serve as peacekeepers or frontline soldiers, but rather as a deterrent against a potential Russian aggression. This initiative follows a summit in Paris with over 24 allies, where discussions centered around the future structure of the Ukrainian army and the necessity of a strong military presence to ensure stability. Macron underscored the importance of continued sanctions on Russia, with Ukrainian President Zelensky emphasizing that Russia currently shows no interest in peace. The Associated Press details a legal battle against the Trump administration regarding press access to the White House. After being banned from the press pool for not adhering to a directive to rename the Gulf of Mexico, the AP has taken legal action, arguing that this ban represents a violation of free speech rights. The case raises significant concerns about government control over media narratives, with AP asserting that it will continue to refer to the Gulf by its traditional name despite the administration's demands. The situation reflects broader tensions between the press and the government, with implications for journalistic freedom and accountability in the current political climate. Nikkei Asia highlights the strategic importance of Japan in U.S. military operations concerning Taiwan. Pentagon advisor Oriana Schuyler Mestral emphasized the necessity for the U.S. to secure rapid access to Japanese bases in the event of a conflict over Taiwan, as these bases would be crucial for launching operations. Mestral pointed out that current agreements require prior consultation with Japan before U.S. forces can engage in combat operations not directly related to Japan's defense, complicating rapid response capabilities. As tensions with China escalate, Mestral advocates for renegotiating military arrangements to ensure that U.S. forces can effectively deter threats in the region, particularly as the geopolitical landscape continues to evolve. Associated Press. European far-right leaders gathered in Jerusalem for a controversial conference organized by the Israeli government to address anti-Semitism, a move that raised eyebrows among mainstream Jewish leaders who opted out due to the polarizing guest list. This gathering highlighted a troubling alliance between Israel, a nation born from Holocaust trauma, and far-right factions in Europe that some critics argue still harbor anti-Semitic sentiments. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has fostered relationships with populist leaders from Hungary, Brazil, and Argentina, reflecting a shift influenced by the rhetoric of former U.S. President Donald Trump. The conference's timing coincides with rising anti-Semitic violence globally, exacerbated by the recent escalation in the Gaza conflict, which has strained Israel's ties with traditional Western allies. Keynote speaker Jordan Bardella, president of France's National Rally, attributed Europe's growing anti-Semitism to migration and Islamism, labeling the latter as the totalitarianism of the 21st century. Other attendees included U.S. Ambassador David Friedman, who expressed enthusiasm for Trump's immigration policies regarding Gaza. Despite the presence of far-right figures from across Europe, notable Jewish leaders like Jonathan Greenblatt and French philosopher Bernard-Henri Lévy withdrew from the event, with Israel's president also opting to host a separate meeting with Jewish leaders instead. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopsis thoughtfully curated by the 6DO team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6DO Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6DO team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6DO Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6DO Brief via email.
Scrolling through the headlines, another crazy day. 6 degrees of stories, connecting in their way. From the weather to the sports, and everything we see. People making news on TV screens for free. 6 degree world, where the news comes in a whirl. Every story ties together like a ribbon in a twirl. Sit back and watch it all, big and small they call. From city lights to countryside, we're connected after all. A laugh, a cry, a sigh, news is flying high. From city lights to countryside, we're connected after all.